Hello, family. Hello, hello. Happy Thursday, everybody. It's so great to see y'all. I see we have several already in the chat today. Hello, everybody. I see our weather is all over the place. Some had snow yesterday. Many of you have had rain. I'm not even going to brag, y'all. It is gorgeous outside here in Virginia. I'm so sorry. It is so pretty outside. I hope that maybe this afternoon I can go outside and maybe ride my bike around the neighborhood or something. Hello, everybody. It's so great to see you. Today we're going to finish up our rag quilt. Y'all, I'm not even going to lie. I'm kind of glad that we're finishing this quilt up today. You know, some projects really keep my interest from the start to the finish. And some projects in general, I'm excited to start them and I get into them and halfway through I lose my interest. I think because I've done so many heart projects already this year that I'm just ready to move on from hearts. The quilt is gorgeous. I love this quilt, but I'm ready to move on from hearts, y'all. Ooh, Cheryl said, keep me in prayers for my blood pressure and sugar. Most definitely, Cheryl. We're going to be praying over that blood pressure and sugar. Make sure you follow up with your doctor and stay on top of that. And keep us updated. And we're praying for good numbers. Good numbers. Hazel said, what's that on your shirt? It's a coffee cup, coffee and sewing machine. They're arguing. They're arguing. Oh, it's so great to see y'all. It's so great to see you. Sheila said, that's why we have works in progress. Yes. You know what? I'll be glad. We're going to finish this up today. If y'all blinked last week, you missed the demonstration and we just mostly chatted in that video because this part went by really fast, right? Joining those blocks into rows went by so quick. And I think this part of the process goes by pretty quick too. And then we have to clip all these seams. I'm going to show you the scissors that I like to use that I got after I did my first rag quilt and my hands hurt for about 30 days after. I got this pair of scissors for my next following rag quilts and it's helped so much. So I'm going to show you those, but we're going to be joining these rows all together to form our quilt. Luckily, this is a small quilt, y'all. So that part of the process goes by pretty quick. And then we're clipping seams. And that reminds me, I'm going to pull up because I forgot to show it last week. It's in the very first video, but here's all the pieces if you want to make this quilt a different size. That's a lot of pieces. I wanted to pull that up. Oh, good, Cheryl. You have a doctor's appointment this afternoon. Very good. Very good. Mimsy, I just want to thank you so much for moderating. Thank you for helping me. Sally made that quilt. Yay, for my birthday. Yeah, that's Poppy. Isn't it so pretty? I love it so much. Right now, that quilt lives right there. I'm trying to decide the best place to put it so that I see it all the time. Thank y'all. Yeah, this is one of the shirts that I ordered with my birthday money. I did put a link down to it because I knew y'all were going to ask me about my shirt. The link is in the description box if you want to check it out. Hazel, my birthday was in February. Beverly said, my size is fine, not making mine very big. Yeah, I'm glad I'm sticking with the 36 by 36, Beverly. Connie said, I like the idea of doing every other block in a heart. I really did like that idea too. Dari said, you always have such cool t-shirts. Y'all, I am so excited. I haven't pulled the plug yet, but probably maybe this weekend I'll make my order. I'm getting a new printer. I'm going to try getting into sublimation for photos on my quilts, but I'm also going to make some shirts, so I can't wait. Oh, Hazel, your husband's birthday is close to mine. Mine's the 27th. Marion, yours is the 20th. I'm 7 days later. Ooh, my plans are a quilt with hearts. Well, this might be right up your alley. This might be right up your alley. I'm going to take this off the screen now. There we go. All right, so before we jump in, while everybody's still coming in and getting notified that we're live, let me go over a few dates, okay? Because today we're live. We're going to finish up the rag quilt. Tomorrow, the thumbnail is already up. Tomorrow evening at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're doing a live virtual craft room tour with Jill Robbins, who lives in Australia. Super excited about that. So the thumbnail is already up on my channel. You can go click your reminder so that it reminds you like 30 minutes before we get started in case Friday night, ooh, we're living it up and you might forget. Then we're doing another craft room tour the following Friday on the 19th, except this one's at 2 p.m. and we're going to be meeting with Margaret Dooley Duncan. So I'm excited to bring you her craft room. I believe she lives in Connecticut, if I'm not mistaken. Tuesday, next week, we're going to do the show and tell live on Creative Crew. So if you're not part of the Creative Crew, there's a link down in the description box. And then Saturday the 20th, I just want to remind y'all that are on Patreon, we're doing our monthly Zoom. We're doing a live show and tell where you can hold up your stuff and we all get to see it. We're doing a Q&A and I'm going to do a short little demo on ink tints, like a workshop. It's going to be so much fun. That's all the news that I have. That's it. Now you'll see the card that I pulled today. Y'all, you know, when my Harlan's mom and dad gave me this set of cards for Christmas, I had not realized that it's the couples edition. So a lot of these really are not appropriate to like have conversations during YouTube lives. So I had to pull like 20 cards till I found one that we could use. And that's the topic for today. Do you have a hard time crying in front of your partner or your friends? Or do tears come naturally? So I'll just answer that real quick. I cry at everything. I cry at sad stuff. I cry at happy stuff. I cry on commercials, movies, songs, driving down the road and a thought pops in my head, sad or good. You name it, I cry. Harlan's pretty used to it. At first, you know, I tried not to do that so much, but why hide it? If you plan on spending a lot of time with someone, just be yourself. I cry very easily. That's just me. Dari said, I hope you do videos on your new sublimation with your new printer. I probably will, Dari. Here's the thing. Some of my most popular videos on my channel are printing photos on fabric. And I've done the June Taylor fabric sheets which work good. Like if I were going to make a quilt today, that is what I would use. I've also done printing with the laser printers, black monochrome printers and color laser printers. Experimenting with those, I've gotten pretty good results. But I'm really looking forward to sublimation because it is way more permanent. And so yeah, but I still, you know, there's a learning curve with it. So yes, I want to do that. Ooh, we're getting lots of feedback on the chat topic for today. I think that's awesome. I cannot get the link to work. Please help. The link for what? There's so many links in the description box. I'm sorry. So there's a link for the pattern. There's a free PDF in the description box for the pattern of the quilt we're making. That might be it. It's a Google link. It's a Google share link. So if you're using a different browser like Firefox or any of those other ones, then that link might not work. And if you email me at lisacapenquilts@gmail.com, I can email it to you. Or there is a link to Etsy, and you can send me messages there, and I can send it to you that way. But it's a simple 2-page PDF for today's pattern. I'm thinking that that's the link you're asking about. Ah, the link to Facebook. You know, last week we had issues with the links to Facebook not working. And then after the live, I clicked on the link and it worked. So I'm not sure what's up with that. I don't know why. But if you go over to Facebook and you just type in the search box, Lisa Capen Quilts, you'll find my business page. It will come right up. And once you're on my business page, there's a little blue button that says join group. You click on that and it brings you over to Creative Crew. So there's ways around it. If the links aren't working, just do a search and I will pop right up. Creative Crew won't work. You have to join the group first. It's a private group. There's 2 security questions that you have to answer, and then we join you in. All right, y'all, I'm going to flip you over to the cutting mat. Cutting mat. There we go. I'm going to show you these scissors before we even move on, because these were a lifesaver in the game of making rag quilts for me. The first rag quilt that I ever made had denim on the back, so it was hundreds of denim squares for the back. And then it was pieces of button front shirts for the front. And I used regular scissors to snip all of those seams, and my hand, which I already have a touch of arthritis anyway, my hand hurt for about a month after. And so I went and I bought these. These are Fiskars, and they have a spring in them. So they spring like this, and they cut to the very, very tip. And I love that. And so if you have mini rag quilts in your future, I highly suggest you invest in yourself and you get yourself, it doesn't even have to be this brand, but a pair of scissors that have that spring action. It's going to save you so much time and a lot of wear on your fingers and your hand. Okay, so I wanted to show you those. You'll see these again as we finish up today. You make me feel happy in Corona times. Oh, thank you. And I apologize. I'm going to mess up your name saying your name. I am so sorry. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and just jump right in today. Remember, we're working with a 1/2 inch seam allowance when joining the rows together in this quilt. We've already used the 1/2 inch seam allowance when we joined our blocks. So that's a 1/2 inch. So I need to remember to set my seam allowance when we move over there. Y'all, I already have a good majority of this quilt together. It's been together for about 3 weeks now. Just patiently waiting. And then last week, we joined my last 3 rows for this quilt together. And here they are. And y'all remember how when we joined these blocks together to form our rows, we did not put the pretty sides together and stitch. Instead, we had the pretty sides facing out, and then we stitched so that the seams are on the front, right? We're still doing that same concept when joining our rows together, and you've probably already figured that out. So there's the 3 rows we're going to be joining together, and then I'm going to join this section once it's together to the bottom of my quilt, okay? So y'all get set up. Where did you buy your scissors? I bought mine from Joann Fabrics. but you can find them on Amazon. I did go ahead and put a link in the description box so that you can check them out. I know lots of people still are not getting out and about yet, and they do a good amount of their shopping online still. So there is a link for these. But I got mine at Joann's, and I think I was able to use a coupon. It's been several years now since I've had them. They're still super duper sharp. All right. Ooh, I have to stay hydrated. Have to stay hydrated. All right, let's see. Trying to figure out the best way. I'm going to bring you over to the sewing machine. And I'm going to go ahead and set this seam allowance. Y'all remember I made a mark on the back side of this piece of paper. I measured over from the edge of the paper 1/2 inch so I can quickly set my seam allowance, right? I'm going to go ahead and do that again because I've been using my sewing machine. I'm going to move that needle over, and there is my 1/2 inch seam allowance. So that comes in really handy. So now I'm going to have it set up like this so you can see this and the sewing machine for a second. So I'm going to take these first 2 rows, just like this. I don't know where to look. All right. Instead of putting pretty sides together, we're going to put backs together, just like that. Put the backs together. Now I know I had some questions last week. Do you open up these seams when you're sewing them? Like that. Do I flatten open these seams when I sew them together? There we go. And I don't really know that there's a right and a wrong answer. You could do it like that. But the way I like to do it is to nest my seams, okay? And I have not pressed these seams, but at the sewing machine, I'm going to hold one seam over this way, and when I sew it, I'm going to hold the other seam on the other side in the opposite direction. So there isn't a lot of thickness right in that seam. Okay, and you'll be able to see that pretty well when I move over to the sewing machine. That's the way I'm going to do it. I'm going to nest my seams. However you want to do it, I say do it that way. That's how I say to do it. All right, so let me pull up so you have a good full view of this sewing machine. There we go. Hello, Sally. So great to see you. Now I'm going to not be able to see the comments so much while I'm sewing. So if you have a question particular for me, you might want to hold off until we switch the screen, okay? Otherwise, feel free to chat amongst yourselves. I'm going to be here at the sewing machine for a few minutes. So here's my 2 rows. I'm going to match up the very beginning of this. Let me put myself a little leader down there. I've been quilting, so my feed dogs are lowered. Ooh, y'all should see what I'm working on. I'll show y'all at the end of this. All right, so we're going to match up the very edge of our quilt using our 1/2 inch seam allowance, and we're going to start sewing. So there we go. Now, as I approach this seam, I'm going to push the bottom seam towards that way. And I'm going to hold this seam towards me. And we're going to nest those seams just like that. Now that's just how I like to do it. You could open your seams up. No matter what, I'm going to show you how to take care of it as soon as these rows are together, okay? not sewing straight. Focus, Lisa, focus. See how I'm pushing that seam in opposite directions. At least I think this video, the sewing part, will be longer than last week's. I think I'm struggling because my chair is sitting so far back from the sewing machine this week. I'm struggling. All right, coming down towards the end. Get that seam just right. All right, so there's our first seam. There's our first one. I'm going to take a break because some of y'all are sewing with me live. Let me show you what this looks like. There we go. Now see, because my seams are nested, they go just like that, right? But when we're done, I'm going to take these little scissors and we're snipping all of these seams anyway. So I snip it like that and it releases that seam just like that. Like that. See how it flips back up? And then we're going to trim this seam when we're all done. Like that. Just like that. So now that seam is completely independent of the way that we nested it. And we're going to be trimming all of these seams anyway, right? There is a little bit more material in this intersection, but I tend to think that that's super cute because it's a little bit more fluffier when it rags in the corners. So now we're going to add, let's see, let's put him, just trying to make sure that there's no light colors. Yeah, we'll put that one on the bottom of this section here. Putting those backs together. We're going to sew this seam. Matching up those raw edges. Just like that. There's the first one. There's the second one. I love that you don't even have to pin or glue base or iron these seams. That's probably my favorite part right there. All right, that's that seam. And guess what? We have one more seam to do. We're going to go ahead and join this group of 3 rows to the rest of my quilt that's been waiting patiently for 3 weeks now. And here she is. Actually, 36 by 36. It's a pretty decent sized little wall quilt, isn't it? You think in your head, 36, that's not very big, but it's a very generous wall size quilt, I think. All right, Lisa, focus before you do it wrong. Before I sew it on upside down or something. All right, we're going to put this one at the bottom. Yes, we are. That looks good. Yep, we'll add it to the bottom. Adding it to the bottom. We will not be done with our sewing machine quite yet after this seam. So y'all be patient with me. I'm going to show you one more thing that you need to do before you're actually done with the sewing machine. All right. Lining up those seams just like this. I talked like I was not very excited about this quilt, and I apologize. I am excited that she's done and I get to put it on display. I'm just tired. I'm kind of tired of the hearts right now. But that's one of the things that made this quilt a little bit different and a little bit non-traditional is doing the applique in the center. So that was fun. There we go. At this point, you're going to notice it's picking up some weight. Y'all see the fuzzy bits? It's starting to pick up some weight. All right, now before I start switching the screens around, that was the last seam. That's how you're going to join all of your rows, okay? That's how you're going to join all your rows. Now before you are done at the sewing machine, because we're going to be not putting a traditional binding on this quilt, you're going to be snipping all of the edges all the way around your quilt too. But before you do that, we want to do a straight stitch all the way around the perimeter of your quilt. Okay, now I'm not going to take the time to do the whole thing because I think you'd get bored really quick just watching me, but I am going to do some so that I can show you what the edge of this quilt is going to look like once it's snipped. Now keep in mind, we still have to wash this quilt and it's going to look dramatically different after you wash it. That's really when the magic happens with this quilt. But let me go ahead and sew a little bit around this quilt so I can snip the edges too. And then I will finish that up off camera. Stay up there. I'm still using my 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm going to go ahead and just do a back stitch and lock that right in place. And you're going to do this all the way around the edge of your quilt. I'm just sewing right over top of these seams. You could open them up. Either way, you're going to have to snip because it's going to lock this seam in one direction or another, right? Just like that, all the way around your quilt. Look, my seam allowance was different up here towards the top. I'll trim that section off. Somehow my seam allowance was not right on that row. And you're just going to do that around the entire perimeter of your quilt. Then you'll be done with your sewing machine. But I did not want to forget about that part. Let me cut this little leader off. Oh, she's going to be pretty. Now, for the thumbnail of the original video, I made a 9-patch and I already cut those seams so that I could take a picture, right? But the rest of the quilt still has that left to be done. So you're going to kind of see what that looks like. Ooh, she's so pretty. Connie said, you can do a binding. It looks very finished rather than ragged. Yes, you could do a binding on this if you wanted to. Just keep in mind, you're going to have these thicker seams you need to go over. But yeah, you could put a binding on it if you wanted to. Now for me, one of the advantages of doing a rag quilt is that I don't have to do a binding. And I'm just going to end up snipping all of the edges just like the rest of the quilt. And because I like being very transparent with you. One of the reasons why I did a rag quilt, getting back into quilting after not doing it for so long, I didn't know how to do a binding. So I was like, this is perfect for me because I don't have to learn how to do a binding. I'm snipping all the edges. So coming back into quilting, I did like 4 rag quilts back to back to back because I did not have to do a binding. Eventually, I was like, okay, I'm done with the rag quilts for now. Let me learn how to do a binding. Yeah, aren't those fabrics just gorgeous? These are, Sally sent them to me, or she either sent them to me or it was part of what she gave me when we were camping in Indiana. They're the Moda Boutique and Baby Jane. I just mixed them up. So you actually have two different charm packs on the front. But yes, I love them. I love them so much. They're so pretty. Barbara said, I always thought that when it makes that noise at the seams, it's time to change the needle. You know what, Barbara? It might be time for me to change that needle. And I'm going to tell you, the last 2 days, I've been doing so much quilting on a project. And that's the same needle that I did all of that quilting with. And it probably does need to be changed. I am horrible when it comes to changing needles. I don't know why. I have a great big stash of them. I don't know why it's so hard for me to change a needle. But one of the reasons too is these seams are relatively thick, okay? And so sometimes it's just going to make that noise when you're going through so many layers of fabric. Like these seams, when I stitch down the edge of this, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers of fabric right there. You could have opened up that seam and there would have only been 4 layers, right? But some of that noise is probably coming from the thickness of that seam. And even if you're using a brand new needle, it might not sound the greatest when going through that many layers. Ooh, Ruth says she got her scissors at Home Depot. Wow. I didn't realize that they had scissors like that at Home Depot. Diana, she said, what time is the Zoom on Patreon? Thinking about joining. Ooh, I would love to see you there. It's going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 20th. So not this Saturday, the following Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're having so much fun over there. A lot of fun. All right, so I did not go around the whole perimeter of this quilt, y'all. I just went down this side. But you need to do this all the way on all 4 sides. And then once you've done that, you get busy snipping, right? One of the things about these scissors is they cut to the very, very tip. So be careful because you do not want to cut the little seam that you've joined your pieces with. And it's possible that you could with these scissors. So be really careful. I like to turn them like this sometimes. And snip, snip, snip. I'm not going all the way down to that very edge. All right, right there where my fingernail is, that's where I've stopped. I'll hold it up close so you can see here in a second. I'll hold this whole seam up so you can see that. You're actually cutting through 4 layers of fabric, and these scissors just go through it like butter. See how I sewed down that seam? Snip, snip. I'm going to snip this side too. This is something that you could do while watching TV. Snip all your edges, just like that. I don't like to go in there and cut. I'm so not technical this week. All right, so that gives you an idea. And I know it's not going to be really in focus this close up, but see all those little snips? Snip, snip, snip. Right there is where I've stopped. So I've not gone all the way down to that seam. I don't want to risk cutting that seam. So I'm stopping with my cut about 1/8 away from that seam. Now what happens is when you wash this, it's going to fray up even more, right? I'm just doing it with my fingers, but it's going to look really pretty once you wash it. And you do that on every single seam. That's why I say you could do it while you're watching TV. Oh, Joyce, this is actually the 3rd video in this series. If you go to the first video, they're in order, and there's a link to the playlist. It's a free pattern, and I show you how to do the hearts, and I even give you a little template so that you can center your hearts right in the middle. So that's like a little cheat. But this is a free pattern if you want to make this quilt. Yes. I'm not left-handed, but I'm going to try this left-handed. Snip. 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 See that? I'm much faster with my right hand. I'll tell you, these scissors are much easier on my hands. I can do a lot more snipping without having to stop. Now, I know some of you don't do Facebook. However, I think that's probably the easiest place for me to share. Once I wash this quilt, I'm going to post a photo of it all ragged out on my Lisa Capen Quilts Facebook page. I've got to go through and cut all the seams, which might take me tonight or something, and then wash it tomorrow. So maybe this weekend. Keep your eyes out because I'll post a finished picture. But yep, you do the edges if you're not putting a binding on it. Traditionally, the rag quilts get ragged along the edges as well. So just like that, you go through and you snip all of the edges. Now, surely we would be here until tomorrow if I was talking and I snipped all of these seams with you live. We would be here for a while. So I'm going to save you that part. But that's it, y'all. This is one of the most simple quilts that you'll probably ever make, a rag quilt. Yep. Now, the messiest part of a rag quilt is washing it. And I've had lots of discussion with y'all in the chat section of these 3 videos. And it seems like, and this is the way I'm going to do it, putting this into a pillowcase or something and washing it is probably going to create the less mess in your washing machine and in your dryer. So that's the way I'm going to wash this. I'm going to find a pillowcase that's big enough, and I'm going to put it right in the pillowcase. If you have a duvet cover washing larger quilts, that's how I would put it, right in there. Or you could make one yourself, right? You could make your own. But yeah, it seems like a lot of people are in agreement that that would probably be the less messiest way to wash the rag quilts. See that? I'll tell you, once you get scissors that have the little springs in them, this part is not that bad. If you are using fancy scissors like this, I don't want to use them. Like this, then your hand is doing a lot of work, right? And that's how I did a queen size rag quilt the very first time I made one. It works, but your hands and your fingers are going to get a workout. And I can only do so much at a time, and then I have to give my hand a rest. But you can certainly use regular scissors as well. See that? Be prepared to make a mess, because start seeing all these threads. You might want to change your shirt before you go to the grocery store. Or if you're like me, they see me whenever I'm in there, I have threads all over my clothes anyway. All right, let's see. Cheryl, you're so sweet. Oh, Sally, that's a good suggestion. Sally said if you want to join your rows into groups of 2 and then snip them as you go, it's much easier on the hands. She's so smart. She's so smart. Y'all are so welcome. Let's see. What kind of material are you using? This is cotton. So it's cotton on the back, it's cotton on the front, and there is an 80-20 batting in between the layers. Can you go across first to snip, or is it better to do each square to snip? Oh, you could do whatever you want. You could snip the whole row across like this. Look here. I snipped this whole 9 patch so that I could take the picture for the first thumbnail for the video number 1. I snipped all of these seams, and then when I joined it, it was already snipped, right? It was okay. So you could snip a square all the way around it. You could do it in rows. You could change it up halfway through. After a while, it does get kind of monotonous, right? You're just clipping. So you could change it up. I don't even think it cares or it matters which order you snip it. It's just at some point you're going to be doing all of it. Can you buy mesh material to make a bag to wash this in? Marion, maybe. If your mesh has really great big holes, then the strings are going to go through the holes anyways, right? But if it's a smaller mesh, then it might catch a lot of the strings. I haven't tried, but it sounds like a pretty good idea. Ooh, Connie's looking for a pattern for grocery bags. Do y'all have any patterns y'all could share with her? Did you use a machine to cut out the shapes of the hearts? You could. You absolutely could. I cut them all out by hand because I used freezer paper applique, which is really soft. It is super soft. There's no adhesive on the back side of my heart. But if you're using Heat and Bond Light or something, absolutely, I would throw it right in my brother's Scan and cut out a whole bunch at one time and save a lot of work. Absolutely. But because I did these with freezer paper, I cut them all out by hand. But wow, what a difference, because there's no Heat and Bond Light on the back side of these, and it's just super light. No adhesive. Yes. So that's what I'll be doing the next couple, tonight and tomorrow maybe. It's a pretty small quilt, so I think, if I sit down while we're watching TV, I might even be able to snip all these seams tonight and then throw it in the wash. And then I will post a finished picture of this entire quilt on my Facebook page. Let me see if I can hold it up though. So, oh, look at the back. Isn't that pretty? I kind of really like the back too. Let me see if I can hold this up so you get a good idea. Ooh. That's going to look so good in my camper. Wow. Y'all, that's a lot of hearts. That is so many hearts. If you are on the fence about starting this quilt and you're like, I like the hearts, but wow, that's just so much work. Last week, and I'm sorry, I forget, someone mentioned do the hearts every other block like a checkerboard. And we played around with that arrangement, and it looked super cute too. So if you don't want to do all the hearts, do them like a checkerboard and save some time, and it still looks super cute. Switch cameras, please. Okay, I just wanted y'all to see my quilt piece. Sorry. I am going to switch the camera back for a second here in a second though, because I want to show you what I've been working on now that we're done with the sewing demo. Now that we're done. Alexis, yep, mine is cotton. You can use flannel in your rag quilts though. Absolutely. You can. Some of the shirts that I used in my very first rag quilt, I used men's button. I went to the Goodwill and bought a whole bunch of men's button front shirts. Some of them were all cotton. Some of them were a cotton poly blend, and some of them were flannel. And I just treated it the same as if I was working with cotton. And that quilt turned out gorgeous. I bought a whole bunch of blue jeans and cut blue jeans like there was no tomorrow. And that quilt is super heavy. Totally recycled denim on the back side of that quilt. All different shades of blue jeans that I used. And the front was all different men's button front shirts. Now Bailey and Austin have that quilt. So, yeah, they love it. Oh, let me hold up my quilts again. It was small on the little screen. I gotcha. Kind of like a Monday right now. Let me see. All right, first let me show you the back. Here's the back. See all my hearts in the quilting? Isn't that so cute? Ooh, all the little hearts. And then here's the front. Now keep in mind, it hasn't ragged yet. So it's going to be prettier once you do that. That's actually a good sized little quilt, isn't it? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. All right, so yeah, we're done with that. Let me show you something else. Andy said, why aren't all the hearts on the back? Well, we did the applique on the front side of the quilt. And then we stitched all the hearts down. And so there's a heart shape on the back side, but the applique, the little heart design, is on the front of the quilt. Cheryl, we are not going to forget. We'll be praying for you in your doctor's appointment. Do you have a video on how to cut a pair of jeans for the most usage? You know what? I did show that in one of my videos, and I cannot tell you which one it was. I forget which video that's in. I'm trying to think back. Oh, goodness. Give me a second to think. Maybe it'll pop in my head. I know that I've cut a pair of blue jeans apart in a video, though. Ooh, put a color thread in your bobbin and the heart really shows up. That's such a good idea. Yes. Ooh, I like that idea. All right, I'm going to show you something that I've been working on. Looky there. Looky there. I'm still working on it, y'all. Isn't that so pretty? Isn't it gorgeous? So when I was talking about doing all that quilting with the needle that I'm currently using right now to sew these seams, that needle did all of this quilting. And now I'm coming in with my Inktense paint pan set and painting the flowers and the leaves. These are dry. It's ready to do the next set. Isn't that gorgeous? I think it would be pretty not even painted, right? Look how pretty that is. Oh my goodness, I love that so much. Something other than hearts. And I did it in my favorite color. Diana, if you have questions about Patreon and I've missed them, repeat your question because I want to make sure that I'm answering questions if you have them. Carolyn, I'm going to try to remember what specific video that was in, but to be really honest, I think there's over 300 videos on my channel, and they're all kind of running together. I almost think that it was just a mug rug video where I used my friend's dad's clothes to make a mug rug, and it was just a patchwork mug rug. I'm thinking that that's the video, but I cannot be like 100% sure. Cannot be for sure. Maybe I did it in a live Facebook. I don't know. I know that I've shown it. But there's probably videos on YouTube already. Andy said the heart stitches from the applique on the top don't show in the back on all the squares. It doesn't really because I used black thread and it blends in, right? Up close, you can see it and you can definitely feel the quilty texture of it, right? But if you wanted it to be a design element in your quilt, you most certainly, like someone else suggested, use a different color thread that would pop off of there. So see that? Some of the blocks, it is more camouflaged on my particular quilt. Marion said, is that applique flowers? Nope, it's all stitched and painted. See that? That's free motion quilting. Isn't it so pretty? And then I painted it. What are you using for the white? Sally, I broke out my Speedball screen printing paint. And it's working perfect with the Inktense. It's working perfectly. And I really like it because the white is so opaque for screen printing. I really kind of like that. So that's what I'm using for the white, because my particular ink tint set did not come with a white. The other set does. Of course, I didn't get that one. So Speedball screen printing. Yeah, I'm having so much fun. Can I show a close-up? This. It's not going to be in focus. I apologize. But that's a close-up. Isn't it so pretty? Let me show you the back. This thing is quilted, quilted, quilted. There's the back. I'll let you look at that for a second. Yep, I am making a video on this. I am. Nita, do not say that. Don't make me drive to your house. You know what? A year ago, I was not this good. And the only way I got better was doing it, doing it, doing it. And the only way you're going to get better is doing it, doing it, doing it. I don't want to hear you say, I will never be good at that. Yes, you will. You have to be patient with yourself, and you have to put in the time and not give up. Don't make me come to your house. Did you put a batting? Yes, there is a, I used an 80-20 batting, so my quilt is super duper thin. All right. Now there's all different kinds of battings that you can use, but because I'm hanging this up in my camper and I want to keep it as light as possible, I used a super duper thin 80-20 batting. You can see it right there. Because I haven't sewn the edge of this side yet. But you can use a loftier batting if you want to. You might want to. So it's a little bit more poofy, right? But yeah, there is a batting in between my pieces. Alexis said, do you even know me? I don't have much patience. I do know that about you, Alexis. I do know that. Connie said, this is all freehand, no pattern. Nope, guess what? I made you a pattern for this. I haven't released it yet. I show you in the video, and the pattern comes with a cheat sheet to cut the whole hexie. This is all one piece of fabric. You need about half a yard of fabric, or maybe a little bit more, like 3/4 of a yard of fabric. And I show you how to cut the perfect hexie size, hexie shape. And then I have the template for the flower, and I trace that out and show you how to trace it all the way around. And so I traced mine with a heat erasing pen so that when I iron over it, those marks disappear. So if you don't stay on the lines, it doesn't even matter. I show that in the video. And then I do the quilting, and now I'm on to the painting. The video is not done yet. But yeah, I have a little pattern for this. You draw out the flowers, and then you could be done at that point. You don't have to do all this. Now it's fun doing all that. And that's only how you're going to learn, right? Is to do it and do it and do it some more. And yeah, you just have fun with it, but you don't have to do all of that quilting. It would be gorgeous if you just did the flowers. And if you don't want to stitch the flowers, you could even do this in applique and not even paint it. That would be the fastest. That would be the fastest. Sylvia, well, see, I'm trying to make up my mind because on Patreon, we're doing an Inktense demo in a week. And I was thinking about painting this set of flowers and this set of flowers and leaving this one and using this as my demo. But I'm kind of really not patient for that. So I might make something totally different to use in that workshop. But as soon as I get it painted, I'm putting the video out. Probably next week. Is this square? Nope, this is hexagon shape. It doesn't all fit. Maybe if I move that and I move that. Yeah, it's not all going to fit in the camera. See that? I made it for my table so I can set a flower on it. It's a table topper. A little table topper. Cheryl, you got a crib size batting. Is that okay? For this size quilt, absolutely. Yep. If you go any bigger, you'll probably need more batting. Yes, this will be a washable. I still have to heat set it, but the Inktense is permanent. So yeah, let me show you this little project that I did testing these paints out. So I did two, right? There is a video for this, and this is free if y'all want to grab this little template that I used. You can get it in that video. So I painted both of these the same way, heat set them, and then this one went through the washer and the dryer. Very minimal fading, I think. Now they weren't painted exactly the same. That was hard to do, right? But this one's been through the washing machine and the dryer. Colors are still really pretty, right? I'm super impressed. So this will be able to be washed as well. Right? I think so too, Marion. Get some pretty purple flowers and set it right in the center and have the flowers going around it. That's my plan anyway. So yeah, keep your eyes out for that. What size is it top to bottom? This is 22 inches top to bottom and 25 inches from side to side. You're welcome. You're welcome. So yeah, I'm just giving y'all a preview because that's what I've been working on. That's one of the reasons why I probably should change my sewing machine needle. Before the binding. Miss Cheryl, are you asking about this or this? I'm still trying to figure out what we're doing next week for the live. Does anybody have any suggestions on what we could do next week? For the measurements of the flower one. That's the finished size, Cheryl, is 22 from tip or from the edge of the binding to the edge of the binding, 22 inches, and 25 from this tip to that tip. 22 by 25. I used the back as the binding on this one as well. Something with a bunny. Oh, for Easter coming up? Let me write that down. Something with a bunny. How about a small landscape quilt? I'm going to write down all of these ideas, y'all. And then I'll decide what I have time to figure out before next week. I have a quilt starting on Monday. And the last 4 days, I've gotten 3 quilt commissions come in. So that's been busy. I'm going to be finishing up this. I'm planning the Christmas blocks for July because that's going to take some planning. Daffodils. Ooh. Flower appliques. Okay, y'all. Y'all know I have an Etsy shop, right? So you know I'm a small business. I was watching this video about an hour before the live because I had everything all set up and everything. Let me grab my notes. I was watching a video, and I'm going to move this. Trending things for 2021, and y'all are talking about flowers and daffodils and stuff. Did you know that vintage is in for this year? And so is like 70s floral prints. That's right up my alley. 70s floral prints. Yes. Vintage. Paisley. Watercolor and tropical colors. And then your natural colors, which is fantastic. Gardening. Yeah, let's do some kind of spring project with flowers. Sylvia wants to see some free motion techniques. All right, I'm really trying not to sell my Patreon. I'm trying not to sell it, okay? But I have to just tell you. We did a workshop on Patreon. If you join Patreon, you can still see it. You get to watch that and follow along. Where we Zoomed and everybody was, well, not everybody. Some were just watching because they wanted to watch and then do it in their own time. We were all set up. We were mostly all set up at our sewing machines. And I had 3 exercises that we did together. And then the last one, we did a lot of fill-in quilting like this to fill it in. It was so much fun. But I think doing a live here on YouTube would be fun too. Thread painting. Ooh. Yes. Sorry, I'm writing all these things down. Ooh, looking through a window. At flowers. Oh, Hazel wants to get all technical and artsy. You're so funny, Hazel. Deborah, I know. The sad thing is my wall is not really in focus because the camera's focused on me, so you can't see all the awesome detail that she put into that. But it's so pretty. She did such a good job on that. Alexa said, I know you can come over and help me dig up my garden. You don't want me to dig up your garden, Alexis. I'm going to let you know. I don't have a green thumb. My cousin 2 weeks ago gave me 2 aloe plants and a vine thing. And I've struggled to keep those alive. Every day I'm like studying them. Are you okay today? What can I do for you today? I'm trying to be a good plant mother to them. You don't want me to take care of your garden. You do not want me to do that. So it's been so much fun hanging out with y'all today. Again, I feel like we went through that really quick. But you know what? The nature of this quilt is really fast. We made it a lot more difficult doing the appliques. We did that to ourselves, but it's so much fun, right? Especially if you love applique. But the rest of the quilt goes by in such a breeze. That's one of the reasons why this rag quilt style of quilting is probably one of the easiest quilts you'll make. And if you're just starting out, this could be one of your first quilts, and it's easy to do. I do not have a poppy pattern for sale on Etsy. Are you talking about my bird quilt? A friend of mine made that for me. Or are you talking about this flower? Because I think that's a poppy. I'm not really sure. It might not be. Either way, no. Although this flower one will be in my Etsy shop soon. Jackie, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. You're welcome. Oh, the flower is a pansy. Yay! I'll have a pattern out probably next week on this one. And the cool thing is that the template is 3 different sizes of a pansy. So you could get creative and make mug rugs with it or something. Right? They are pansies. Yay. Okie doke, y'all. So I have a bunch of seams to cut on my rag quilt. I want to get that in the wash. I'll be washing it in a pillowcase. One more thing. I do think it takes a couple of washings, a couple of really good washings before it stops shedding all of these little threads in your washer and in your dryer. Check your dryer lint trap thing often in case, threads collect in there. You want to keep cleaning that out several times, checking on it, right? And do that for the first 3 or 4 times while washing your rag quilts. After that, it kind of stops. But make sure you do that. I didn't want to forget to tell you that. Y'all are so welcome. You're welcome, Dari. You're so welcome. Okay, everybody. I'm off to clip some rag quilt seams. I'm off to have some lunch and maybe take a ride on my bike since it's so pretty outside. I hope y'all have a fantastic week, and I have a great list. Thank you for the suggestions. I wrote them down, and we'll do something floral next week. Okay? Keep an eye out for the thumbnail, because if there's something that you can print off and follow along with me during the live, it'll be in the description box, so you can get that ahead of time. Okay? Ooh, a mug rug with an inspirational verse. I'm going to write that down too, because guess what? 2021 trending things. Inspirational messaging. Kind of like those mug rugs right back there, right? All right, everybody. I love you so much. Thanks for hanging out with me. We'll see you next week. Always have to find this button. Here we go. Bye, everybody.